Kate Falcho. Welcome to Irish Granny Tarot. It's our Saturday book, and we're on video number 2 of the Convoluted Universe, Book 4 by Dolores Cannon. So certainly seek out video number 1 and books 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to go through the whole series, so buckle up. And we ended at the beginning of Chapter 9. Chapter 9 is called The Balance in Life. Chelsea, a subject, goes into trance and discovers she's not on Earth. She's somewhere with an orange sky and purple trees that are leathery. I think she's in a Beatles song. She is not a body. And there's nobody else around. So this is, just picture this scenario. This is really odd. And Cannon says, okay, there's nobody around. Nothing is happening. This is odd. Let's move forward to another significant time. And she finds herself being a young native boy hunting rabbits who lived in a large settlement of teepees. And moving forward, finds himself aged, joining with men on horses to kill deer and settlers, and feeling reluctant to participate in this. But more and more settlers came, and his group attacked them, and then he got shot and he died. And the lesson was that sometimes you have to do things that you don't want to for the betterment of those around you. So, hunting and killing animals to feed people. Sometimes you have to do what you don't want to do. And then, of course, they were killing other people. So, Anyway, after death, he found himself floating to a white area and had a life review. And the lesson was to speak up and not be part of a group. Mentally, be the influence. So don't be a follower, be a leader. And that he's going to have to come back and make up for the karmic imbalance of killing other people. And finds himself a soldier with difficult choices to make about right and wrong. And it's a German soldier in World War II. He got shot early in the battle and got out of it and was just happy to be done with the war. His soul was glad to be out of it. He saw that he had a family, this in this next life after that. He has a family, and he's a factory worker, and has a heart attack in his 60s. And the lesson in that life was he had let the depression that he carried over for being in the war, previous life, to ruin his life as a factory worker. It wasted his whole life, and he died of it. Should not mope over the mistakes or obsess over your past, things you've done in the past. I just try to let those go. Don't let adverse situations dictate your whole entire life. And you can choose to be a victim or to be more of a positive person. And that's really hard, very hard, but that's something we should strive for. In this life, Chelsea, I think her name was, spent too much time on the computer and not with her husband. And she was told that she needed to get a balance in her life. So interesting how from one life to another things get carried over. Chapter 10, Traveling. So this next subject, it happens in 2008 in London. The woman's name is Linda. And she was actually contemplating suicide, had a terrible life. Cannon didn't know any of this. Linda was taking a class Cannon was teaching, and she picked her out of the class to do a demonstration. She had no idea about her background or her troubles. So she was put into trance. She was barefoot and an old man in a hot desert sandy area, clutching a stone, with a design to remind himself and to stay connected with the others. And he tells Canon, I am one of them. This is my group, or the others, and the stone reminds me of this. We're scattered like seeds, but we stay connected. I am with them, but not of them. I come and go to and from Earth. I was part of the making of the darkness, and now I am part of lifting the darkness. The stone helps open up channels to send back information to others, so it's actually a way to create communication, energetic communication. I'm here to show the way out of this heavy density. All these spirits over and over and over talk about how heavy the gravity, the density is in being in a human body. I'm here to show them other ways of thinking and being. The stone feeds me impulses from the others, so I'm lifted up and don't get trapped. Some of us stay in spirit to help those of us in body. Without them, we would be trapped. We're directed to travel from place to place to raise the vibration with love. He dies because he's very old, and he's called back, and he's just really happy, full of joy of the freedom. Next, he reincarnates as Linda, but all of her life, his spirit has come and gone, and helpers have substituted for him in her body because her life was so hard. So this poor woman really did have challenges, but she'd chosen this hard life to evolve. She had to evolve a lot because of what had gone on in her past. Apparently, she's a very strong soul, and her job was to help to raise the vibrations here on Earth, to help to lighten the load for other people. She was told in trance that her body is kind of like a transformer, and it takes in the negativity of Earth and makes it pure, which is why she was so overwhelmed. She was told she has to breathe, like consciously do breathing exercises, and it connects her to the source. That she did a lot of tensing up and holding her breath, and it trapped fear inside of her. But she's actually literally here to help the earth breathe. She needs to focus within, to not focus on things that she needs to do. She needs to focus on what she needs to be. This life is an illusion. It's an opportunity to learn and to evolve. That's all. Today's people who are the most helpful for the planet come from backgrounds of abuse and dysfunction. Their struggle early taught them things, and they can take those lessons and help others. And this is subconscious. You're not really aware of it. You can't bring others up to your level, but you can be with them and elevate them by exposure to your energy and your vibration. It's unsaid. It's unconscious. What you're doing as a person with a higher vibration is you're creating a safe environment for people. So Linda, this is terrible, had a tumor in her chest. And when she went back to the doctor after this session, the tumor was gone. So Canon says she sees this often. She sees people coming in with all kinds of physical things, sort of remnants of past karma, and they've been documented medically and not intentionally healed, but in the process of working through past lives, they're better. All suffering is a lesson, and every suffering that you experience is a gift because there's a lesson in it. She says we need to find our wholeness within ourselves, and this attracts the person or people around you that you don't have to fix. The love that you're seeking is actually within you. And I think the advice, if I remember correctly, this advice was kind of for the lovelorn, people who are looking for love relationships. And all I ever find is people who need to be fixed and have problems, or I always find unavailable people, emotionally unavailable. And she said, well, this is all because you're looking outside. You need to be looking inside. True love comes from source, and you actually see it in your sleep. You get that benefit in your sleep. Chapter 11 is about the accumulator of information. A woman named Kathy is in trance, and she's in the area of smooth surfaces that are like rock and ice or something. And she sees a cluster of tall buildings that they're weird. She's in this weird empty space, and the buildings are built with like no organization to them. She goes up some spiral staircase to a round tower, and it's an observation area where she can see far, and she uses her mind to provide views of anywhere. It's an advanced technique. So this tower is like a facilitator that helps her. It's like being inside of a telescope or something. And it's advanced technology. It lets your mind go to what you want to see. And then you're able to store the information. The tower is actually used to gather, store, and eventually transmit elsewhere all this information from many towers. So there's lots of others doing it. And she doesn't eat. She's sustained by the air alone. This is a really weird life. And she spends time gathering information or using her mind to go to any planet she wants to play. She says it's a very easy existence. She travels as energy, like a current. She can choose to have a body or not. She says if you choose to stay in a place, it has to be for a long time as you go through the evolution of many bodies. So let's say you're one of these spirits floating around and you decide, I want to go to Earth. Okay, but that means you're committing to multiple lifetimes because you have to evolve before you don't just boom, here I am, unless you're here on a special mission. So you commit to this if you choose to stay. And she says that she's incarnated here on Earth because she has a mission. Her job is to observe for dangers. She's been a rock, and she learned stability, and then she was a butterfly, and she learned flitting about. And all of the opposites, these lessons are opposites. And she's a rock is always the same thing. It's the specific lesson she had to learn was about transformation. And the rock was always the same thing, but the butterfly is always undergoing change. And it was the comparison. And it's over different lifetimes. This is not a lesson that you wake up one morning and I got it. No, it happens over lifetimes. Earth is important because it provides opportunities to change, because there are so many options, so many forms. As Kathy, she's had many opportunities, many expectations that have fallen apart to learn. And the lesson here is for her to learn that many different belief systems can be harmful. And she's told that when she's sleeping, her spirit is traveling. Once a soul commits to life on a planet, it has to experience the progression of every life form, and it takes a long time. She repeats this now. We're bounded by the rules, and you might make mistakes, and if you do, you can't progress until you undo whatever the karma is. And she said on Earth there are an awful lot of souls caught in the wheel of karma. Some pure souls are protected from this so they can come to help and leave. And these are the volunteer observers. They're here on a mission and go elsewhere when their job here is finished. Chapter 12 is about carrying guilt. This new subject, Amanda, who in a trance is a little boy in a village who has just died of a contagion, and sees himself going through a tunnel to a school to study universal laws and recognizes many people, the spirits that he meets there, and they're learning about life, and they're learning how light and sound are vibration, are energy. So if you need to learn more on Earth, your spirit will be actually attracted to a body. And you can choose not to, but it's a good thing to go to life on Earth and expand your awareness. So apparently people have a little bit of a moral battle with themselves about coming back. He's told that there's a tapestry of all life with all knowledge, and we're all part of it. Canon has covered this before, and she shows the interwoven connectedness. This is this room with the big tapestry, the Akashic records. I haven't decided. I vacillate back and forth. Is this literally like a thing, or is this a metaphor? I don't know. Amanda is told that her physical problems are the result of her holding herself back with guilt. That she's had empathy, but she's had the wrong kind of empathy, and that guilt has held her back. Chapter 13, Changing the Past. A subject named Monica, in a trance, discovers that she's a man of about 50 in a barren sand area with simple clothes, unkempt hair and beard, carrying a satchel on his back. So obviously he's on a pilgrimage. And she's in the trance. She starts to cry and says, I don't expect to survive. I feel like I failed. I came to give wisdom on how to plant crops and to get along and how to be in their heart. And I was sent from above, from far away. I've seen beautiful places where I came from, where people are actually trained, and then we come to these other places to teach lessons. I was brought here in a small gold sphere with a pilot. That's interesting. I seem to be a replacement for someone. People looked to him for guidance and healing with energy. But a man came, an angry man who was surrounded with dark energy. He hated that I was doing good acts. He couldn't kill me. I'm protected. So he killed a lot of the people I was helping. I sent energy out, and the force of it killed him. I used energy to kill, not to heal, and therefore I'm here. I'm left here. All my people were dead, but I killed him anyway, which was against the protocol, laws of nature. So now the subject is crying and says, the only emotion I was supposed to have was love, but then I stepped over the line and I have to pay. I failed and I'm left to redeem myself. I can't go back until I reconnect with Source. Moving forward, he had found an oasis, and he stayed there and prayed, and he got old and he died. And he learned through this hypnosis that, it's a she actually, but as the man had taken on the anger of that bad guy and was still carrying that anger, and discovered that he did a good thing out of love, and his action freed this bad guy from the karma that he had. So the old guy was supposed to learn from the experience and not punish himself. This is the real issue. It's not what he did, but how he felt about it afterwards. And he's been punishing himself through many lifetimes, and that serves no purpose. It just holds you down on the earth. So Monica's past lives were always self-punishing, and now she understands she can forgive herself and move forward. In this case, a misunderstanding of his training caused him so much guilt that he self-punished for many lives. It was totally unnecessary. So this session was actually really valuable for him. Monica. Now this next section is about murder and suicide. So, and I don't remember this being graphic. Chapter 14, Murder and the Resting Place. So Carol goes to Cannon and is in trance and is regressed back to a life in the Old West. There's a general store, excuse me, and she's disappointed by the merchandise in it. She's a seamstress, and she's not happy in this town. It's drab, and she feels stuck. She has a little girl. Her husband was killed in an explosion. This town is in the middle of nowhere. So she's moved forward in time and suddenly finds herself in a different life. She's in the city with cobblestones and lanterns, and she's a girl in a fancy velvet and lace dress. And it looks like either England or Ireland. There's a pub, and she socializes, is how it's put in the book, with quotes, socializes with men for money. And actually, she's very respected by the men. She has lots of good friends, and they're good to her. She lives in a room upstairs, but she spends most of her time in the pub. But then she's strangled by a customer who wanted to take her out of that life, but she rejected him. She told him she didn't want to go with him, and he got jealous and angry, and he killed her. But he was very immediately shamed and sorry about what he had done. She said, after her death, I just want to rest. I just want to heal. I'm in a blue cocoon where I'm taken care of and feel nothing but love. When ready to emerge, she comes into a place that's a very bright light, and she's surrounded by tons of mansions of colors and crystals and lights. Lots of people are reading books, watching videos, but they aren't really people. They're like light, but sometimes they're people. So you kind of see what's going on here. So she's shown around, and she says it's like a homecoming. Everyone is nice, like they already know each other, and there's a lot to learn. One person there is sort of her assigned buddy to show her the ropes, and it took a long time for her to heal and to learn. She'd been a good person, but unwittingly toyed with people's emotions, excuse me, in her socializing. She didn't realize it. So we have responsibility to think about others and how our behavior affects others. That was her lesson. Chapter 15 is fear is carried over. So a woman named Diane goes into a trance and finds herself in a hot brown desert, maybe ancient Persian. There's an archway that kind of leads her to believe that. She said that this caused so much fear that she wanted to cry. She was older, bearded man in a loose robe and a turban. She felt tired and in anguish about something on the other side of the arch. Excuse me. She heard loud voices, and she says, I'm worried about someone. And she fears that it's her daughter being accused as a sorceress. So it's interesting because people get regressed and they find themselves in the middle of some drama. They don't even know what's going on right away. So she thinks her daughter has been accused as a sorceress because she has the gift of prophecy. She told a young man about it, about a coming event, and he accused her of sorcery and believed she created the upcoming event. This woman fears the crowd will kill him and hopes that he can sneak in and free her because they're also worried that it'll kill her. The crowd kills both of them and they're hanged. And what she says, her observation, is that this crowd is in a fever of fear. As an old man, he's angry. He says this is bad because this is going to mean a karmic thing to work out in the next life. He learned tolerance from his daughter because she was so different. But he says, I was intolerant of what they did, and finds himself floating towards the light, feels very traumatized and needs rest. After his rest, he still feels enormous weight of fear. He's told that fear is the opposite of the God source. It has become a crutch for him to keep him away from going into harmful situations. He'd rather sit in the fear than face it and move forward. He's told that Earth would be good for him. Plenty to be afraid of. Earth would be good for him because the biggest thing that we have to do on Earth is overcome fear. And he's really reluctant to return because Earth is so hard, so bad, so cruel. But he agreed to go and work on, forward his evolution and move forward. So now here she is as a person in the trance, is what he came back as. And she's an empath and can feel people's energy and therefore often distrusts people. Some had been in that mob and they all have karma to work out together. So it's a soul recognition, and she needs to learn detachment and empathetic energy. It's difficult because you take on things from people. Chapter 16, Murder and Suicide. Julie is a subject with a major physical issues with her liver. She has scarred ducts in her liver, and she's on drugs for pain in her back and for depression. In a trance, she's on a beach. She's a 14-year-old native boy holding her small brother's hands, and they've been out gathering berries when the village was destroyed in a sudden storm and flood. And they're very upset. It's all washed away. Moving forward, he sees that people were taken by white men. So the storm came, but that wasn't what killed them. The white men came at the same time. It's coincidental. And he's captured now, moving forward, and his little brother is gone. He meets up with his father, who's very ashamed that he couldn't protect the mom, and she's gone. So they're beaten and starved to bow to a white god. He says a padre with a cross is doing it. They're called animals by the white men. They trick the padre into eating a poison root, and he eats it himself because he doesn't want to go on a ship far away. I guess they're taking them into slavery. And he dies, and he says, I have been wasted by the white man. He felt that he did a good thing to cause the padre to die because the padre was evil and had hurt many, many people. The lesson was that community is good, that he actually acted out of love. Julie, the woman who's experiencing this, is told to take all the prescription drugs. Taking them is like taking the poison root. She has to stop. So this shows a case where murder and suicide were actually not bad. It's interesting. It's all dependent on the context. Julia spoke in another language in her sleep, and her husband recorded it. And she was channeling other lives in her sleep. That's wild. She stopped taking her pain meds with acetaminophen, and her liver healed. Oh, that could be really hard on your liver, yeah. And Kennan warns people not to take it, FYI. I'm not giving medical advice. This is what this part of the book says. What do we know, right? Chapter 17, A Suicide. Evelyn finds herself on a mountain looking into a valley and looking next to a Chinese-style building and realizes it's a Buddhist monastery. She finds herself in robes. She doesn't know if she's a male or female. She spends time illuminating manuscripts with Chinese writing and realizes that she's in a girls' school. There's a military takeover and they're attacked, and she kills herself by jumping off of a cliff. And when she jumps, she finds herself out of her body and moving to a place of light and learning. She recognizes people there and they discuss how that life went doing those books. And the lesson was you have to know your limitations. She couldn't handle the life that she had chosen, and when it got too bad, she was gone. The lesson is about endurance, about not giving up, because you're here to deal with whatever it is you're supposed to be dealing with. But with that native boy, it wasn't a terrible thing either. Chapter 18, A Heartbroken Suicide. Oh dear, I'd forgotten about this. The subject's name is Helen, and she's all alone in a cemetery on a foggy night, and it's cold. She's a young woman with an English accent in a long dress, boots, and a cape, and is distraught and sobbing. Her son was approximately 5, and he died while she was sick and had the same fever. She also lost a baby in utero and was just out of her mind with grief. And she finds a grave. It says Thomas, 1873. She feels like she let her husband down, and her husband feels guilty that he couldn't do anything. So the two of them, and her husband takes care of the church. He's a very pious man. He treats her like a servant. He ignores her now, and she fears that they won't have any more children and that there's no love between them. So she stabs herself in her bed out of anger. I just can't even. He's upset about it, but she was of no use for him. And on her grave, it says Rebecca. And she tells Canon, "My heart keeps getting hurt every time I come to Earth. I'm just supposed to be loving and helping." But she's lived past lives of wars. I had good intentions, but here on Earth it's heavy like mud. In this life she holds energy for the Earth. That's all she has to do. Just be herself. That's her reason for being here, is to hold energy for the Earth. She is a beacon of light. She comes from many places. She's a traveler. She's protected and shouldn't worry. This is like the person in the session today. She's a strong person and she needs to keep her ego in check. And Canon speculates that she might be part of the second wave of people, that they're here to help, but the only thing they have to do to help is just to exist. Their energy is what helps. And all she has to do is just enjoy her life. Canon's not sure about suicide. She says sometimes is it justified, sometimes is it not justified. Does it always end up in negative karma? Are there extenuating circumstances? She says that sometimes she's discovered it's been built into a life plan as an option. It's bad if it breaks your contract because it can disrupt other people's plans. How do you know? No answers there. Chapter 19. Suicide repays karma. So woman Joan goes into trance and finds herself inside a bubble, an opaque bubble floating in space and dropping gently somewhere. Her body is see-through, like a cloud. Then she finds herself floating out of it. The bubble was actually a transportation device. She's being taken further by another cloud-like being, a guide, to show her something. She goes to a gathering of angels. It's like a city in the sky, very loving. She's being shown in a book. She cries because they're showing her the pain of her life to remind her that it's over now, to acknowledge how far she's come. And it's been a completion. The pain was necessary to find balance. Earth life is about balance. She needed to balance her karma. She's shown a surface picture of how horrible that she'd been, but now it was all balanced. She sees that her father, this time, created opportunities for her to work out balance. His job was to be negative so she could grow. Gee, thanks. She realizes that each past life presented challenges and lessons to balance what she'd done in the past, and it helped her to understand how she had affected others. She worked out her past relationships with the same souls in different roles. So now some of this sort of is repetitious, and it's because they come from years of sessions that would sort of reiterate something for Canon to solidify it and understand it. And the concept of making contracts with groups of other souls and reincarnating together in different roles, this was novel for her anyway. She said, there's an urgency for us all to work out our karma soon because we are running out of time to do it on Earth. Many of us are stumbling in the dark and need help, like this woman who came to her, to break through and figure things out. We can make new contracts on a spiritual level while in our body if we've done what we came to do. We can do more. Usually, when you're asleep on a subconscious spirit level, and you can sort of set that intention before you go to sleep at night, what you'd like to do while you're asleep. She says, murder, you don't, to repay murder, you don't murder. You, and to repay a murder, you don't murder your murderer from a past life in the next life. It's not that cause and effecty. The lesson is learned, but if you're a victim one lifetime, you're not the murderer next time, and then vice versa. It doesn't necessarily work that way. It's a softer way, she says. Murder is repaid by caretaking. You can devote your entire life and not indulge in any of the desires of your own and help. Like she said, she was a sick child and had aging parents that needed help and a very overly demanding boss. Those sorts of things may very well be making up for something you did in a past life. It may not make sense. Why do I have all these hard things? Well, that may be why. So Monique, a subject in trance, had 2 past lives. As a young girl, she was killed by a Roman soldier in an invading army. She may not have to balance this karmic death with, we may not have to balance our karmic death with specific people, but it's sort of like, you move, pay it forward. You might have to do it with someone who was hurt horribly in a past life, but not necessarily in that murder victim relationship with you in the past life. You may have loved ones who are killed in this life, and it's to teach you how to understand what it is you did as a murderer in a past life. So karma can be balanced by forgiving others and forgiving yourself, which is, I think, a really timely lesson, given what's going on in the Middle East. This just came to me, and, a tongue of fire from the Holy Ghost. We're talking a situation that's revenge, bad actions, bad reactions, worse reactions, and it just goes back and forth over many millennia. And what did she just say? The important lesson was you can balance that karma, bring peace by forgiving others and yourself. Part 2, the convoluted universe keeps expanding. The beginning of Earth, chapter 20, back to the beginning. So Naomi goes into trance and finds herself in an alien rocky world like the Grand Canyon without any kind of greenery at all. It's all very gray. She has no body. She's more like a cloud. She says, I'm a mist. I keep things cool so that the earth doesn't blow up. It's very early in the formation of the earth. She says, I am one of the people of the mist. And this is a part of a cycle of reincarnation to experience being everything. The planet is newly formed. The core is hot. To cool it so that a new life can form, this is what these mist people do. The planet was formed by a ball of light from source, becoming fire, and then matter forms in the fire with black obsidian, and it has to be cooled, and more matter has to form. Other beings have specialized jobs, and they will come as the planet cools more, and some will become plants, some will become other things, some will leave, some will become air and water and minerals. And after the job as a mist is over, she'll become part of a water pool and will grow into huge bodies of water from which will come the ocean and part of the protective atmosphere. And then she will rest in the rest in the light, and then become part of a current. That sounds like plasma physics to me. She will help move the spiritual consciousness with harmony and love vibrations. And then she will go to a place of learning and ask for knowledge. And at that point, the knowledge will be given, and she learns that all creation expands. That's that whole physics theory of the pulses of plasma coming from the sun and going all the way out and then coming back in like the tides. She tells Canon that we all have all knowledge inside of us and we can tap into it. Naomi is a transmitter. She's like a tuning fork that helps refine the earth just by being. This is that second wave of people whose energy is, their job is to be the energy. To create the broadest possible energy for others and help to raise the vibration of the planet. Darker, denser spirits on earth will try to close this off. They don't understand. And loners are what she refers to as light that comes from the source, who act as beacons, but they avoid a lot of people because a lot of people are dark, and they exercise free will as an unwillingness to bring forth more light. So there's this tug of war going on. Chapter 21. Tweaking. When I read that, I was a little bit alarmed. Now what are we talking about? A woman, Ella, finds herself in a beautiful garden. There's a building that's a library, and it's very familiar to her. And then she's greeted by somebody she recognizes as a friend. And she's taken to work with a council on plans for her next life. And her plans are that she may not be on Earth. She's shown different planets with new and different life forms. So one of her jobs is to introduce new life forms and to see what works on any given planet. Planets, life forms, they all have to agree and give permission. So this is a contract between everything and everybody involved. They go into spaceships and they do a lot of the work in the spaceship. They kind of go to a place and they hang out and they work on this as an experiment to see what works. And this is really interesting given what we read with last week with Linda Moulton Howe, glimpses of other realities. In the spaceships, they are helped by many different life forms that are not human. So what they're doing is expanding the light. There's a lot of camaraderie. She can take any form she wants. This is her job. It's not her home. She says she can be multiple places at the same time. She said some life forms don't experience emotions the way humans do. And they can be kind of, she says, it's like they're a fan. They are more open with more emotions. On Earth, she said, you learn emotions and you learn limitations. And people can have multiple emotions at the same time, which is unique. Many beings can't do that. But they understand oneness, and we have a real problem with that. On Earth, we're separate. And so what these beings do is tweak their different DNAs and give that to the beings. They share the coded information in a database that can be shared. As a child, she saw UFOs, and she was told in some sort of subconscious thing that was a small UFO and that all UFOs are much bigger than a city. She was taken to tweak her DNA, and so her consciousness is it's been added to help deal with life on Earth. So this woman who's still in trance. She says we're surrounded by magnetism, and sometimes our bodies get out of alignment and need to be tweaked, balanced, and the spirits tweak the coding, which is the DNA, and they use energy and crystals to get us back into a balance. This woman is told she's here to help, that the Earth is evolving, the energy is changing, and DNA needs tweaking. And she's here to help bring light. And this story is, over and over again. That she will return beyond the source. This is too much for us to understand, so they tell us to torture us, but we're not going to understand it. That there are various levels of creator. Too many for us to understand. And then, here's a bit of information that's going to be real helpful in your daily life. The beginning equals the ending equals the middle equals now. Which I think sounds to me like all time is happening at one time. Our human form uses only a tiny minor part of the knowledge that we carry in us. Then she's told, now all of this stuff sounds familiar, we've heard it before, but some of this is coming out of this subject's mouth, is elaborating for canon little things she's been told in the past. Now they're reiterating it to emphasize it and make it seem more true. We don't die, we change form. There are many consciousnesses on Earth that have no body. For example, orbs. And there can be this is weird, there can be a whole civilization in an orb. She said we need to go within to get off the karmic circle. We need to be neutral. To be neutral towards all that happens in your life, and you will move off the karmic circle. Easy peasy. We have to change our perception. We're not a victim, and we have to stop blaming others. She was told you can change in a second. If you try, you can change in a second. And don't hold on to old things from the past. And, this comes to me again, that this is the lesson that we are all being taught right now, today, with what's going on in the Middle East. We cannot hold on to things from the past. Now, this is difficult, to be neutral. That's the important karmic lesson, to be neutral. How do it's very difficult. So I'm going to end this video right here because the next chapter's long, and I don't want to go on really, really, really long time. I hope you're enjoying this. I know everybody loves the Dolores Cannon books, and I did commit to finishing the whole Convoluted Universe series. And I will tell you that several people have donated to our book fund, and I did order the Linda Moulton Howe book, and I'm keeping a list, and I'm going to thank you all when I use a book that I bought from the book fund. I will name all the people who donated because I'm extremely grateful. And then I'm going to do a drawing of those names and pick out one of our books, and the winner gets that book. And I'll tell you right now, if you want to get involved, I have an extra copy of Dolores Cannon's book, The Convoluted Universe, Book 5. And that's going to be the first book in our book drawing. And it's going to be several weeks because I want to finish this book before we do Volume 2 of Glimpses of Other Realities. And when we start Glimpses of Other Realities, we'll do the drawing for Book 5 of Convoluted Universe. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So that's it for this part of the book, and I really appreciate everybody who is enthusiastic about our little book gatherings on Saturday, and I appreciate everybody who returns over and over, and I appreciate comments. They're overwhelmingly positive. Some books are harder for some people than others in the sense that they're more emotional or painful or whatever. I'm good with hearing about that. I appreciate the feedback, whatever it is. It's just so supportive to know that people are listening. And if you have suggestions, I'm open to them. I won't promise that I'll do any of them, but I'm certainly open to them. And just thank you. Thank you all very much. So, in the meantime, Slangafoil, Slancha.